Well, good morning. Thanks for joining us this Sunday. Our universities play a key role in the life and economy of Upper Michigan. And today we'll talk about that with the president of NMU. It starts right now.
From TV6, this is The Ryan Report. Here's your host, Don Ryan.
Fritz Erickson was named Northern Michigan University's 15th president on July 1, 2014. Prior to coming here, he served as provost and vice president for academic affairs at Ferris State University in Big Rapids. Besides leading the university, he's been actively involved in the community, including serving as a member of the Lake Superior Community Partnership and Innovate Marquette Smart Zone boards, the Rotary Club, and was appointed by Governor Rick Snyder to serve on the executive committee of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Pleased he could join us this morning to provide an update on what's happening at NMU. President Erickson, welcome back to the Ryan Report.
Well, thanks very much for having me. I always like coming back.
And I say welcome back because you've been here before. So we won't spend a lot of time on personal background, but maybe a couple of facts. Just
Sure.
For those who don't know, you're a Michigander born in Kalamazoo, right?
Well, actually, I was born in Mount Pleasant when my parents were undergraduate students.
Okay, but you grew up kind of in Kalamazoo.
And I grew up in Kalamazoo.
And you also, you've spent time in the classroom. You were actually an elementary and middle school teacher at one time.
I did. I started my career hoping to be a kindergarten teacher, but ended up teaching 5th, 6th grade, and then middle school.
You went from one extreme to the other.
I did.
Okay. And when you came to Northern, you weren't a stranger to the UP because you had served administratively at Michigan Tech for a while prior to that.
Yeah, from 97 to 2000, I was chair of education and psychology, and lived in Houghton and enjoyed every minute of my time
and I
there.
know you enjoy golfing.
Golfing.
And downhill skiing.
Yeah, a little snow is making me happy.
Well, that brings me to a point that you covered recently in a presentation to the community, where you said that we have to stop grumbling about winter because winter is a good thing, and it's good for the university. Talk to us about that.
It is. Actually, if you look at our marketing material, what we do is we celebrate our location. We celebrate being in Marquette, being an integral part of the Upper Peninsula, and we recruit students from all over Michigan, all over the Midwest, and certainly all over the country with the idea of being able to come and live in this fantastic environment, including the winter.
And you found that this has some appeal not just to students but parents as well.
It does.
When you work in the safety factor, in addition to that, being in a smaller
well,
community.
We're always in the top 20 of safest universities in the country. It's in large part because we live in such a safe community. And when you have that and combine that with the natural beauty and the opportunities that all exist, with the university and the Upper Peninsula, it makes a great sell for us.
Since you've been here, you've been dealing with a challenge, and that is declining enrollment.
Yes.
I think at one point Northern was close to 10,000 students.
It was.
Dipped down to about 7,500. This all started before you got here. We'll be fair
It
about
did.
that. And it's not just a factor at Northern; it affects other schools as well. But what was your answer to solving that or to meeting that challenge?
Well, I think a couple of things. First, and the challenge is real. We've seen a real demographic shift. If you look at the Midwest and the Northeast, these are two areas of the country that have seen significant declines in student age population. In fact, we're projecting another 10% decline over the next 8 to 10 years of eligible high school students to come to college. So the way you have to address this, I think, involves an all-hands-on-deck approach. It means we do a lot of everything. Certainly, we've really begun to market our university and all the wonderful strengths that we've had. We have the best marketing that you'll find anywhere for any university in the country, and I'm absolutely convinced of it. We celebrate our location, we celebrate who we are, and we embrace the idea, the simple idea, that we measure ourselves by who we include in our university, not by who we exclude. And when you combine all of the different things that we do, the development of new academic programs, the exciting faculty and staff that we have, it really, really makes a difference. And we've seen a real turnaround in our enrollment because of it.
And I know you've done strategic planning, which really includes many at the university.
Oh yeah, strategic planning at universities doesn't work unless it's very inclusive. And we took 3 years to get to a strategic plan. We spent a whole year coming up with 7 words that are our core values. And it was very important that the university community, as well as the broader community, were involved in that. That laid the foundation for developing a strategic plan, which we completed, and then we completed a strategic implementation plan, because the strategic plan isn't any good unless you have a real strategy for implementing it.
Otherwise, it just gathers dust.
Listen, we've all been through strategic planning
Right.
where there are books on a shelf, and we wanted to make sure we were really implementing what our vision was.
I know one of the key words of those core values was innovation, and that one has
Absolutely.
been particularly important to you, hasn't it?
Well, it has. You know, the future of universities, in my view, lies in our ability to embrace innovation. Innovation from new and exciting academic programs, innovation in terms of holding on to the history of who we have been, innovation in how we reach out to new populations of students, how we serve our community better. But innovation isn't really worth anything unless you're willing to put a little meat behind this and make the investments. And we as a university community have made several very important investments.
Okay, we're going to talk about those and talk about some of the innovative things you've done, but we're going to take a break.
Okay.
We'll be back with more on the Ryan Report in just a couple of minutes. Our conversation this morning is with NMU President Fritz Erickson. There's been some positive gains for the university. Let's talk about some of those as a result of innovation. I know you made some real gains in the freshman class this year.
We did. We were up 10.8%, which is just about double anybody else in the state. It was remarkable to see that kind of increase. I asked a student the other day, why Northern? Why'd you come to Northern? And he just looked at me and he said, because Northern is the happening university. And so we're really seeing that reflected. We knock on wood every day. We don't let that success slow us down. And we see even a brighter future for next year and beyond.
I know you're also happy with some things like retention rates and graduation
Well,
rates.
retention is very, very important for us, and that enrollment is a function of bringing new students in, but it's equally important to keep the students that you have. And we want our students to be successful, and so setting record retention rates for us has been very important, as well as with graduation rates, because as I tell the students when they come for orientation, the goal is not to go to college, the goal is to graduate from college. And our commitment is to really help them graduate.
And I think you're doing well with placement rates as well, and I think you credit internships as part of that.
That's right. Internships play an important role. You know, if I were to boil down what we really provide students and need to provide, we need to provide them with a great education and help getting that first job. Because if you can get that first job, that gets you the second job and the third job, and away wonderful careers go. And we hear those stories a lot. So internships are important. Direct connections that we have with industry are very important. And providing the kinds of academic programs that are really in demand are important. So it's really a combination of those.
And speaking of programs, you started a new doctoral program in rural leadership.
Well, we're exploring that.
Okay,
In fact, we think that that's one of the unique contributions that we can make, is a broad-based program in rural leadership that could be applied for people, say, working in school systems, people that are going to be superintendents and principals, or rural economic development, or rural finance, or rural politics. Rural politics is different. And so we see the idea of embracing our rural heritage and developing an advanced degree program around it as something that would be pretty exciting.
Some of the other programs you've started, which have gotten some attention, not just here but around the country. One is called FROST, Forensic Research Outdoor Station.
That's correct.
Even though I know what the initials stand for, I'm not sure I fully understand what they do.
What they do, this is, the common vernacular is a body farm. And even though I get in trouble whenever I say that. What we do, we've, in partnership with the Department of Corrections, we're able to locate and create a site where human remains will be laid out and studied through the decomposition process. And so we have donors that donate their remains. They go into our research process. And the interesting thing for me has been, we are only the 8th such site in the world, and the only cold weather site in the world. And so we expect researchers from all over the country to be coming and participating in the study and the research that's going on.
And what will students involved in this program,
Well,
where will they go to work?
Well, students are at the center of all of this. They're studying things like forensic anthropology. Will work out of criminal justice and body identification. We even expect to involve our art department in terms of facial reconstruction and identification. There's a whole emerging field around this, and we hired a new forensic anthropologist. She's a death investigator, was a death investigator out of Michigan State Police, and we see this as a very, very exciting and innovative program.
One of the other programs that's got some attention is called Medical Plant Chemistry, but it's kind of been identified as maybe dealing with marijuana.
Yes, somehow it's gotten the identity that this is a marijuana program, which it's not, even though marijuana is considered by many a medicinal plant and is part of the research and study that our folks do. This program came about because we had a couple of faculty in our chemistry department who went to the American Chemical Society, sat in on some sessions and learned that there was a real need for people to really do the kind of in-depth study around medicinal plants, whether it's marijuana or witch hazel or a whole series of plants. And they've been able to develop some protocols for doing that kind of research and preparing people to work in that industry. And we've received both wide-ranging national attention and international attention for it. We've been in Time Magazine, USA Today. I just got a note the other day that we were a featured article out of newspapers in Australia, and we are inundated with people who are interested in coming and studying the program. Now there's one catch with this. This is a hardcore chemistry degree. This is not for the faint of mind. This is general chemistry, organic chemistry, biochemistry, data analysis, plant physiology.
And it's not about recreational
use of marijuana. This is not about recreational uses of marijuana.
Okay. I've got some more questions for you. We'll get to those in just a couple of minutes.
Sure.
We'll get back with more on the Ryan Report in just 2 minutes. Once again this morning, we're talking with NMU President Fritz Erickson. I was reading some studies that show that the number of people going into teaching is really down. And of course, back in the early days, Northern was a teacher's college.
And that's very much part of who we are. We really embrace our foundation as a teacher's college, and we have, in my opinion, one of the finest teacher-ed programs anywhere in the state. The challenge has been that we've seen a significant decline, not only at Northern in the number of people that are going into teaching, but across Michigan and nationally. And it's creating a real crisis for schools. We get calls all the time from school districts looking to be able to hire teachers.
Do you think this is a cyclical thing, or?
I think it's a combination of things. I don't think it's helped that there has been, frankly, some vilification of teachers, and the job has become so difficult and so demanding without the other kinds of rewards that go with it that we're getting fewer people coming in. I also think it's a result of so many other opportunities that are out there as well.
The reason I say cyclical is there was a time not too long ago when it was hard to get a teacher's job.
Yeah, I think it was. And so one of the things that happens is people then stay away. But we're doing better and better. I think we're really targeting and reaching out to a population of folks that really are going into education for all the right reasons.
You have some great building projects going on, some new housing, which is really a different approach. Number one, in financing. You might tell us about that.
You know, innovation comes in a lot of ways, and financing is one of the ways. We were prepared to renovate the existing Quad 1 dorms, Payne Hall and Halverson and Gant and Spalding. But the amount of money it would have cost us to do that would have increased the student rental fees by about 32 to 34%. We were able to, through some innovative financing and public-private partnership, actually keep the cost down for our students and yet turn around and build what we think are the finest living learning facilities anywhere in the country. It's not only great dorm rooms, but it's a lodge that will be the family room of the university. It is a main street, so our students can stay indoors when they walk to the dining hall. It is also a tutoring center right where the students live, and we're exploring a host of other, what I think are really innovative living, learning, environmental considerations.
A lot more we could talk about that, but in the interest of time, I know you're also interested in making some changes to the university center.
Yeah, we're starting to finalize the design plans for the university center. We'll start that process, the construction process, next semester. We expect to add a 1,300 seat, 12 to 1,300 seat ballroom that will not only meet the needs of the university and our students, faculty, and staff, but also support the community, because Marquette and the Upper Peninsula needs a world-class conference center, and we're going to build a world-class conference center.
And I know you're also excited about the Educational Access Network, which
I
would call Wi-Fi on steroids, but how do you describe it?
It is. We have done more to solve rural internet access than almost anybody that I know. We have 1,200 subscribers. I was told that this morning, and it's just exploded. The Educational Access Network is available for anybody. You don't have to be a student at Northern. We provide educational materials for anybody that wants to do any self-improvement, but anybody can come along and join the system and have access to affordable, high-speed internet to help them improve their lives.
And you're continuing to expand that, to roll it out in some areas?
We are building across the entire Upper Peninsula. We had wonderful support from the Michigan Economic Development Council, and we have, I believe, 13 sites up as we speak, and they're building out as fast as we possibly can. We also are trying to work out, could we go to Northern Lower Michigan? And of course, the advantage for us is everybody knows this comes from Northern. And we have great partnerships with school districts to do this. We have great partnerships with Bay College and Gogebic Community College to make it accessible for them. So this is turning into something that we're very, very pleased with.
I have a lot more, but we have less than 30 seconds. You just planted 150 trees on campus.
I did. We wanted to give you something to look at from your house.
Well, I enjoy it too. As I say, there's a lot more we could talk about, but time is up. Thanks very much for coming in this morning.
Thank you very much,
Good
Don.
things happening.
Always good to be here.
Okay. We'll be back with some other thoughts for you in just a couple of minutes. Well, let's stay with the subject of education a few minutes longer. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about kids learning to tell time on a traditional clock. This morning, I'm off on a new tangent. When a lot of us grew up, the prevalent thinking was that schools should focus on the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. A lot of folks think we should still be doing that today. Of course, if we take that phrase literally, we should also be focusing on spelling, since only one of those words actually begins with R, but that's another story. Today, my concern is writing. And I'm not talking about writing creatively. I'm referring to the actual process of how we put words on a piece of paper. I raise the issue because some schools no longer teach cursive writing. There are people graduating from college who, when called on to actually write words on a sheet of paper, must fall back on printing because they never learned how to write longhand. As I have in the past, let me once again take you back to my childhood. As a student in the Ishpeming Public Schools, I learned about penmanship. Now, I must tell you, I didn't learn very well. Although I've learned to be a fairly creative writer, I would never receive an award for my penmanship. I could write the words, they just never looked very pretty. Back then, we even had a special teacher that would come along every week or two who specialized in penmanship. I'm sure at least some of you can remember the Palmer method of teaching kids how to write. It was developed and promoted by Austin Palmer and became the most popular handwriting system in the United States. Through fairly boring repetition, we were taught how to make certain letters and connect them together. It had its day, but over the years it has also fallen out of favor. So the question for today is, should kids be taught cursive writing in school? Even if they aren't going to win any awards for their handwriting, should they at least know how to do it? Or are we destined to be a society that depends on computer keyboards, and do we communicate with texts and tweets punched out with fingers and thumbs on keyboards or screens? I must admit, after telling you all this, that while I've written hundreds of thousands of words, it really wasn't done with paper and pen. Most of those words all found their way to paper via computer keyboards and printers. As a matter of fact, when I do write something now with pen in hand, I often resort to printing. And I'm not sure if I'm a victim of underuse or just getting older, but when I do get back to cursive writing, I occasionally get a little forgetful about how a few of those letters are made. Is penmanship like riding a bicycle? Once you learn, you never forget? Well, I'm still doing okay with the bike, so I guess my writing is just a little rusty and needs some practice. One thing I know for sure, it never will look good enough to please my penmanship teacher, and she'd be right. How about you? How's your cursive writing? I'll be back in a minute. It's time for us to wrap it up for another week. I want to remind you again that this show can also be seen each week at uppermichigansource.com. Past shows are available now. Today's episode will be there at about noon tomorrow. Thanks to President Fritz Erickson for joining us today to let us know about some of the interesting developments underway at Northern Michigan University. And thank you for being here. Let's make a date to get together again at this same time next Sunday morning.